So escaping the 9 to 5, that grind is not easy to get out of, especially with the cost of living constantly going up. Financial freedom seems out of reach for a lot of people. But in today's episode of Solving the Money Problem, we're sitting down with my special guest, Shane, and he found his way out using the power of the infinite banking concept. So tune in as we dive into his journey, the challenges he overcame, and how he took back control of his financial life, and how you can too. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Shane, tell me a little bit about what you did before retirement.
Well, Chris, I've been in the automotive industry for over 25 years. Learned it from my dad, ended up going in and, learned the business, started as a young kid. And then from there, went into management part of it. I really enjoyed helping other people learn the business and learn how to feed their families and so on and learn a new skill. And that's where it all began, is just over time, I got better and better. And, like a lot of businesses, worked my way up and try to do everything with integrity throughout. So right now it's getting a lot different out there. So you got corporations that are involved with the companies and, your value is no longer there. So very happy that I was able to move on from that and kind of go into what we're going to talk about today.
And I bet you there's a lot of people listening to this that are in a similar situation, might not be in the auto industry, but their industry that they got into, that they loved, has changed, has either, become very corporate, the different management structures, different managers have come in and made it very difficult for them to really feel comfortable in their line of work. And I know that's a similar story to what happened to you. As you were climbing the ranks in the automotive industry, you got to some pretty high positions, but you found that the higher up you got, the more things changed. And the longer you were in the industry, the more the industry changed. What were some of the key things that literally let you know that you had to find a way out? You had to find a different path instead of just grinding it out and just putting your time in to do what most people do and, work as long as they can and then retire and just live on the bare necessities?
Yeah, it really just came down to realizing that the information that I had available to give and share was just swept under the rug, and people who didn't know how to do the business, which was confirmed by numbers because I'm a bit of a math guy. You just watched it and you're like, hey man, we're closing at half the percentage we used to. And a lot of my stuff was internet sales. Like I had a really good grasp of that. And we used to sell 18% of the folks that came online, and it was how you advertised and where you advertised and creating a good product for the customer. And that was gone. So, we slashed all the stuff that worked, and then we ended up with the stuff that didn't. So, instead of closing at, modestly at a 13% ratio, we were down to a 6.5%, which is interesting. And no one wanted to hear, well, how did we get back to where we were? Because no one knew how to look at the numbers anymore. It was really bizarre. But, it's kind of like a Days of Thunder. Remember when they would run around the track? And the pit crew guy was like, okay, you go ahead and run it your way. He comes back and his tires are burned up and melting off his car. He's like, all right. It's like, now you need to do it my way. And when they came back, the tires were still good. It was like, that's kind of what we were doing. We were melting the tires off the car. Everyone was getting tired. There was no traction left in the business. And the guys were earning less. I mean, it was just a cycle. So that's what put it on the radar for me. It was time to find more plan Bs.
Gosh, for anyone that just heard that story, if you have not watched Days of Thunder, maybe you're just a little too young for that one to have shown up on the radar screen, go and watch that movie. Tom Cruise in his early years, he looked like a kid burning the tires off of his NASCAR. What a great movie. Check it out. But there's one thing, Shane, that I remember you told me about your story that you didn't bring up. You had a coworker that planted a seed, and you took that seed and you have built that into what you're doing now. Like, can you just talk a little bit about that moment where that coworker mentioned something and you're like, wait a second, because sometimes that's all it takes to give people just enough juice to get them to that next level of their life.
Yeah, it was interesting. We had a new manager come in with our team, and we were talking. And one night I was like, "Hey, I've really been looking at this Turo thing." He's like, "Turo, yeah, Turo's been great for me." I was like, "You do Turo?" He's like, "Yeah, I got 2 cars on the platform. Made a ton of money through COVID." I was like, "Okay." And I'm one of those guys, if you can do it, so can I kind of person. So, I picked his brain a little bit, and it was interesting because he had the exact same car that I was thinking about putting on the platform, a 2013 Honda Pilot. And I was like, man, if you're making, at least $1,000 a month, let's go. So, I really just bounced ideas off him, grew my platform, and that's where we are today. I got 3 cars on the platform, but it was, just needing that extra nudge, someone I could bounce an idea or two off of. If I, was doing something wrong, I could at least say, "Hey, how was your experience?" And he was a wealth of knowledge and very helpful when it came to starting my business.
Well, I'm going to transition what you just said there because it's very similar to the infinite banking concepts. A lot of people hear about the infinite banking concepts. They see a little short video. I mean, there's lots of them on social media. You were talking about that before we went live. But a lot of people have just a misconceived notion of what the infinite banking concept is, how it works. And a lot of them are like, "Oh, that sounds too good to be true. That must be a scam." And I know when you first heard about Turo, you're a due diligence guy. You did a bunch of due diligence, but let's come off of Turo a little bit because you ended up doing that. But you somehow heard about what we teach, which is the infinite banking concept. Can you just talk about where you learned about that and then what those early stages were for you to actually jump on board onto that platform?
Yeah, infinite banking, the process itself was fascinating to me. Recapture your money, but then using the vehicle that you personally, kind of reach out and teach us over and over is with the, using our specially designed dividend paying whole life insurance policies. And I had a policy probably 15 years ago and it was non-performing. So shoot, it could have been a IUL. I have no idea. It could have been whole life where the guy made all the money. And then there was, about 4 years ago, I started, wanting to know where all my money was going. So I started budgeting a little bit better. And then that specific company ended up having someone that I could talk to. So I reached out, did not get the feel, Chris, like I have with you guys, which is, transparency and, the trustworthiness of the guys I'm talking to before setting up my policy. And that was a huge shift. So once I started being able to, watch your videos online and then also get a little bit of help from the guy that I was talking with, it completely shifted. So I felt really good about starting the policy, with compounding interest was a big draw. But high cash value was probably the biggest because then I could put my money to work, protect my family, and really get ahead. And that's what I envisioned this doing. And I mean, I'm less than 3 years in and it's working. So that's where the IBC kind of came in. I did the due diligence, got the bad feelings, the gut feeling from other companies that didn't feel like were the right fit. And then thank goodness you guys came along and drilled down a little bit more, which was important for me. I'm not a complete analytical, but I do have a lot of those traits, and seeing the numbers was important to me.
So Shane, one of the things I think this audience is going to really want to know is how did you go from the corporate America working in the auto industry to literally pulling the plug and retiring? But then also I want to transition. You didn't just retire yourself, you also retired your wife. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, October of 2024 was that magic date. So what did you have to do to get to the point where October 2024 could actually happen?
I had to have a process that worked. So we had to have money coming in. Turo is very consistent, even though there are peaks and valleys, but it's fairly consistent for the year. And my wife was in, school system. So, they were 9 months out of the year anyway. So I needed to make sure I covered her expenses. Still had enough that was coming in. So we were above and beyond what her expenses were, and feel good about her being home and, being able to unplug. because, as you know, the school system, it can be interesting depending on where you're at. And it was just time. The other good part was we were able to get all three of our girls out of middle school, which is the school that she was in, K through eighth. And with them moving on, that was another important thing because we wanted her there, long enough to, get her through middle school and whatever might come about. But we had the money. I mean, we had the money, and it was, sometimes do things long enough and you're like, this doesn't make any sense to keep doing it. And it was time. So we were able to pull the plug October 2024 and get her out of the school system.
And I want to just show the audience 2 screen shares that you were nice enough to show us. And I'm going to go back a little bit here to 2023. So in 2023, you had started the Turo. At that point, I'm going to make an assumption that you were still working in the auto industry. So this was kind of your test pilot where you were kind of just running it, seeing how it worked, seeing how much money you could make. And in 2023, you earned $22,927. That was your earning for doing the Turo plus the trip reimbursements. Like, talk a little bit about that. How many cars did you have rented out at that point in time? And were you starting to severely think about retiring, when you closed 2023 with 22 grand? Because a lot of people watching this would look at that and be like, that's not enough for me to retire. But what they're not hearing yet is the other stuff you were doing with the infinite banking concepts that allowed you to fully retire. So just talk about 2023 here real quick.
Yeah, 2023 was my test pilot year. So I had my 2013 pilot I put on the platform literally 2 weeks before the 2022 ended. I had a 2011 Honda Pilot come in with really low miles, so I bought it. And that was going to be my other car just to get to work with. And I was like, if I'm making money with one, might as well make money with both. So put those on the platform, and my mind was already starting to unplug from corporate America anyways. And, this plan B was rocking. So, obviously those first few months, we kind of figured out life a little bit on how to do it. And then from there it was a matter of, hey, honey, do you want to, do this? Because it does involve, her coming with me or helping clean or get the girls out to the car to get it done while I'm at work. And luckily, she's very supportive and kind of knew where we were headed. And so we were able to, learn and earn at the same time. And that was really it. We wanted to start thinking a little bit bigger after that first year.
And you did. Now I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to show 2024, which is the year that you retired. And I just want everybody to look at this. 2024 in Turo, you earned $37,241. So again, you had a pretty big increase in Turo. What was different in 2024 than 2023 outside of you were just starting to figure it out?
Yeah, outside of figuring it out, I added one more vehicle. It was a 2020 Pilot that we had on lease that we decided to buy out. And when we did that, that was the end of December of the previous year. And then we had to put something else on it just because it had a smart key. But put that in the platform, and the earnings grew. And one thing that's not shown on there, Chris, and what people may not know yet, is that my daughter got her license, and so I needed a car from time to time to bring her, allow her to get to school and do those types of things. So there's many weeks there where we pulled at least one of our cars to have her get to school and do whatever she needed to do with it. So
you could have made more than the 37,241.
Yeah, if I had 3 dedicated to it, it would have been more.
Now, there's one other thing, too, that I know because you've been around the campfire for a while that you started really taking a liking to, and that was lending money, being the bank and lending on privatemoneyclub.com. So you had the Turo going, 2023 was the test pilot. 2024 was, the year where you added that new vehicle, the 2020 Honda Pilot. So you had 3 Honda Pilots in the platform, renting out, and your daughter was using the one, which is, I did not know that, but you were also lending money. Now, most people that come from corporate America or some type of a job have saved money up, and they've got 401ks that they leave or do something with. Now, how did you begin the process of lending money? Because to many people watching this video, that's a foreign concept. They don't know how to be the bank. They don't know how to lend money. They wouldn't know the first thing about it. But I would preface, most people don't know the first thing about investing in stocks, yet they still put money in mutual funds within their 401k. So really, it's not too far different. But what was your story?
It was really just being around, your channel and your people, your team. Fantastic group. And I tell you, right when I got my first policy was, I believe, towards the end of 22. And, I just was like, well, what else can I find about Chris Naugle and his team? And about then is when you're kind of relaunching Private Money Club. And I was like, I got money, and it sounds like you can make money with it. What is this? So I started digging in a little bit, got the Premier subscription just so I could dig even more. And we had, lenders that are borrowers that are on there that are actually real people. They're not, what you'd expect. I mean, it really is. You don't, it's not like some corporate, let me take it to all my people and then I'll get back to you. It's like, you're talking to a guy or a gal, and then, you just kind of what you advertised it at, it was a dating site for money. And that's all it really was. If you are bold enough to at least reach out and connect, trust me, they want to connect back. Was able to work out my main goal for that first money that I put into the policy was to get it earning money so I could buy more stuff, like another car for Turo was the real key. And, that's kind of what I used during the beginning stages, was putting that money on the platform, lending it out and using it to feel comfortable about getting my 2011 pilot. Because again, I didn't know it was going to work, but at least I could pay that payment and I could pay a piece of the other payment and be okay. And that's what it's really about, right? You want to feel monetarily comfortable without getting hurt, or with a lot lower risk of getting hurt. And Private Money Club gives you the tools to protect yourself if you're wise enough to go through the process. And sometimes you earn and sometimes you learn and sometimes you do both. And with your program, I've been able to do both.
I love that. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of go to the board real quick, and I want to really dive deeper into Turo. I want to dive deeper into how you're using the infinite banking concept, because so far we've kind of laid out your transition from corporate America to retirement. You did it with lending money on privatemoneyclub.com, and you also did it by Turo. And the combination of the two made it so that you could retire both you and your wife. So the other part we're going to get into, folks, just so you're all, and he mentioned it, this is super important, is the legacy side of this. He's got 3 daughters. All 3 of his daughters, we're going to talk about them and show how they're working in the business. So not only is he helping them earn an income, because that's their income to live, but they're learning a business that then they can decide either to do it as a side hustle, do it full time, or not do anything at all with it. But at least he's teaching them what he's learned to get to this point. But there's one critical thing that I want to talk about, is not just Turo, how he's doing that, but I want to talk about how he's mixing Turo with the infinite banking concept. So a lot of times when people do Turo, they're financing the cars. So they're going to a traditional bank, financing the car, and then making monthly principal and interest payments back to a bank, which cuts out the profit. So you looked at that $37,000 that I put up on the screen. What you don't know is it's $37,000 plus he's getting all the money back and all the interest back on all of the cars that he's got in his Turo fleet. So let's just dive into that. So again, he retired October of 2024. Here are the 3 vehicles he's got right now that he is using in Turo. He started with the 2011 Honda Pilot. Then he got the 2013 Honda Pilot shortly after. And then after that, he added the 2020 Honda Pilot. We're going to come back to that one in a second. So a lot of people, when they think about Turo, they're thinking about like my other videos that I've done. I did one video on a cyber truck that somebody was Turoing. I did another one where he had like a Lamborghini. He had all sorts of exotics. Like when people look at this, they're like a Honda Pilot. That's kind of just a plain Jane automobile. But you know what? When a family wants to Turo a vehicle because they're vacationing, they want a vehicle that has room. They want a vehicle that's affordable, good on gas, and also safe. If you look up Honda Pilots, they are one of the safest SUVs on the market, or at least they were. So it checks all the boxes. Am I right in saying that, Shane?
Absolutely safe and very reliable.
The reliable part is more of a benefit to you. So that can be shown right here. So folks, just so you all know, like, let's just take his income, okay? His Turo income, roughly about $1,000 per car per month. So you're talking about $3,000. That's $36,000 a year. Look at his maintenance and expenses on these cars, including insurance, because insurance is pretty affordable on a Honda Pilot, is only $6,200 a year. So he's netting $29,800. And that's using all three of these cars. So that cost factor is a huge thing. So the other thing too, folks, when you're looking at Turo, what you want to do is you want to find the vehicle or vehicles that you're thinking about Turoing. Look at what they're renting for, but don't just look at what they're renting for now. Look at the history of the vehicles. If you look at Honda Pilots, it's anywhere between $35 and $100 a day. Now, Shane, real quick, that's a pretty big spread. What makes it a $35 a day, time of year or car, or $100 a day? Like, why is there such a big range?
Yeah, it's a great question. One I figured out the first year. So there's peak time and there's off peak time. So, with where I live, I'm out in Colorado. So we have ski season and we have summer season. So we got two peaks. During the off season, which could be, April, is when the snow starts to go away and tax season is upon us. You might be at a $35 a day kind of a deal. When it gets into, October sometimes, September is first part of school, October, first part of school for some schools, and even August, believe it or not, people are going back to school. Those could be those $35 per day type of trips. So you got to at least look a little bit in your market. But with Turo, it makes it pretty simple because you just plug in Honda Pilot or a 7-seater. I mean, if you want to, make it real broad, just put in a 7-seater. I'm in Colorado, so 4-wheel drive's important, and then just see what pops up. And then from there, if they're all $35 a day, you might look at it and see if it's a wreck, which typically they're not, but you can see what kind of brand they are and then make your own decision from there. But if you see that they're all about $70 a day, that's a big deal. And then the $100 a day all ski season and a lot of the peak time during the summer, you can get $100 or over $100 a day on that car.
Wow,
so
that's super important to know. All right, so folks, now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch slides, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about the process. So Shane, I believe the one thing you had mentioned is you kind of got around the campfire and you started watching the videos, you learned about the infinite banking concepts, you actually learned from somebody else and then found your way back over to this campfire and you started doing this. So one of the things I mentioned earlier is Shane not only rents his cars on Turo, but also is the bank on his cars and also the private lending he's doing. So when we show you the numbers, just know not all of this money is being used for the Turos. So a lot of this money is actually being lent out on privatemoneyclub.com. So currently Shane has 2 policies. We're going to go into the numbers of his 2 policies, but then we're going to take those policies. I'm going to show you exactly how he's doing this to become the bank on both of the cars. And soon he'll have 3 cars fully funded by his banking system. A lot of times, folks, I want you to understand this. When you begin the process of the infinite banking, it's a process. You're going to go through this. You're not, in most cases, you're not going to just put all the money in the policy and pay off all your debts all at once. That wasn't my story, Shane. I know that wasn't yours. I did it over time. I'd fund my policies. We call that capitalize the bank, lend the money out, pay off debts, recapture and recycle the money that I used to give to the debtors. And I kept repeating that. Velocity is a really important thing. The velocity of that going around that circle goes faster and faster. So over time, you pay off more bills or more debts in a shorter period of time because you've got the velocity of money, the compounding effect of your money, and you just have more money working for you, which is the case here. So we're going to look at 2 of the 3 Honda Pilots, but we're going to put the 3rd one on deck, and we're going to even talk about the 4th Honda Pilot, which will be one his daughter will do. But I want to just real quickly, I want to show your policies if that's okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. And what we did is we took his policy illustrations and we combined them into what we call a cash flow analysis. This is something we do for all of our clients. And you can see here, and there we go, the annual premium on this policy is $109,000. So you can see there was a dump in. So Shane, do you want to walk through kind of how you did these 2 policies and kind of the logic behind how you funded them?
Yeah, the first one was pretty simple. I figured after I did my cash breakout as to how much cash flow I had left over that could either go into my savings account or into something like this, I found out that I was comfortable with a couple grand a month. I had a good chunk of income that was coming in, or a good chunk of money that was already in, either stocks or other investments that I wanted to pull and put into here, so it could start the compounding effect sooner, which is where the dump in came from. So it all really just came down to what wouldn't hurt me, as I was kind of saying earlier. I wanted to be comfortable in it, and then how much I could put in and start that compounding effect immediately. So that's where the 109 came in. I did it on a monthly payment schedule from there. So I literally just made sure a couple grand was in a segregated account that I learned from you guys, just one that flows money in and out to my policy. And that's where it started.
So folks, when you're looking at the screen right here, I want to point out a couple things. So that's how he figured out how much to put in. He had a dump in, which is, could be one time, or you could do it a couple of years. It's however you want to build them. These policies are custom designed and engineered around the client's needs and goals, and whatever they tell us they want us to build, we do. So we knew that Shane needed a high early cash value plan. He had money to dump in right away, which you can see in this first year. The 109 is a combination of the $24,000 or $2,000 a month plus his dump in. And you can see over here, so there's guaranteed and non-guaranteed. Now, I want to call out the difference. A lot of times I jump right over this because of just time, but I think it's important here. So when you look at this, guaranteed, okay? So here's his guaranteed cash value, which is lock, stock, and barrel contractually guaranteed. There will never be a day that Shane's policies do not perform at this level or higher. But that actually is only half the story, because guaranteed also does not include the dividend. So the insurance company that Shane started these 2 policies with has been around, I think, gosh, it's either 120 plus or 140 plus years. They have never, ever, ever not paid a dividend. So by looking at guaranteed, we are looking at it without the dividend. So when we jump over here to the blue columns right here, okay, projected, you'll notice it doesn't say guaranteed, it says projected. The only difference between guaranteed and non-guaranteed is this column right here, projected dividend. Because we can't say that the dividends are guaranteed, but we can tell you that they've never, ever not paid one. Not through the Great Depression, they still paid dividends then, not through the Great Recession or any war, world wars, they've never not paid. So to look at this and look at the guaranteed as the solid numbers would be a mistake, because the dividend is more than likely always going to be paid. It's just how much are they going to pay in a dividend? Right now we're seeing dividends go up, so that's a good thing. So Shane, when he looks at his policies next year and the year after, there's a good chance these will not show the true numbers, and it will be a good thing because he'll have more cash. But you can see he puts 109 in, and he has 100,717,000, okay, at the end of year 1. And then over here, this is his death benefit, 1.489995. That's kind of a weird death benefit if most people that aren't familiar with the infinite banking concept, they're looking at it. They're like, why would you do a weird death benefit? Because the death benefit, folks, is only built around the amount of premium deposits. So Shane wanted to put 109 in. The IRS, or what they call the MEX 7-pay rule, says we needed 1.489995 in death benefit. I know it's weird, but we build the policies very different than you would build a regular life insurance policy. But going on from there, you can see what we're going to show is the second year, Shane puts in $2,000 a month. And right here, this is going to show how much his plan grows. So his plan grows by 22,867. Not quite the amount he put in. So he puts in 24 and gets to use 22,000 of the 24. That's assuming that Shane were to take all 100,000 out in the first year and make that money go to work, either lending it or paying down his Turo cars, which we'll get into in a second. But you can see here, the third year, he puts in 2,000 a month, 24,000 in the year, and Shane has $26,632 to use. Now, that is more than what his deposit is. And the one thing, and Shane knows this, but all of you may not, from this point on, and you can see it, here's all of his numbers. These are actually Shane's numbers, okay? He gave us his illustrations, and we just made this sheet. Every year, after that third year, he will take out more than he put in. He will make more money than what he deposits every year for the rest of his life, as you can see. And it gets pretty significant. I love going down here and looking at the 10th year. Let's look at the 11th year, because the 11th year, something wacky happens. So let's just focus on this for a second. He was putting 24,000 in for the first 7 years. Now, remember I mentioned MEC 7 pay rules. Those are the IRS rules. 7 pay means 7 years. Notice how after the 7th year, his premium deposit drops to 23,084. What happened there? Well, what happened is we dropped the term rider. So you can see here, he went from a $1.7 million death benefit. We reduced it down to $661,000 because we got rid of the term rider, which made it so this policy was more effective and efficient. So if we look at the next 3 years, he was putting 0.84 in, but then it drops to $6,000. So he goes from putting 24 in to only being able to put 6 in. But look at the 11th year. Put 6 in, has the ability guaranteed to take out 8,395, but has the ability over here with dividend to take out 21,766. Shane, you've heard me say this, and I know you've heard other people have asked this. People are always like, well, how long do I have to put premiums into the policy? Well, you can stop putting premiums into any one of the policies we design anytime after the 10th year. But Shane, let me just pose this question to you. Shane, if in the 11th year you had the ability to put $6,000 into your policy, and that year at the end of the year, you could take out $21,766, would you not put 6,000 in to get 21,000? I know this is kind of a silly question, but
It is a little silly. Yes, I would put $6,000 in all day.
Folks, in the comments, would any of you not put the $6,000 in if you knew that $6,000 was going to basically give you the ability to take 21,766 out? I think every one of you would agree you would absolutely do the 6,000. And every year that you put that 6,000 in, you can see it gets higher. The next year it's 22, then 23, 24, 25. Even the guaranteed column, the guaranteed cash value. I don't know anybody that wouldn't put $6,000 in to take 8,300 out. And that's without the dividend. That would be assuming the company never pays a dividend ever again, which basically means the company wouldn't exist, okay? Because mutually owned life insurance companies, like these companies that Shane's using, they always pay a dividend. So I just wanted to show this because all of you can see what happens. And also, I know there are some gurus out there who say, when you die, you only get the death benefit. You don't get any of the cash value. Now, although that is true, but let's debunk that, Shane. Now, I know you're looking at the same screen I am here. So up here, we had term insurance in there and it dropped. Now, I don't know what the actual face amount of the policy is, but let's call it 500 grand. Let's just say the base whole life face amount was 500 grand. Here's the death benefit that would be paid out by the insurance company each and every single year. Shane, all I want to know is every year after we drop the term insurance, is the death benefit staying the same, going up, or going down?
Going up.
Okay. Why is it going up?
Well, you got more money going in and it's compounding. So every year there's just more available to bump it up. The PUAs bump it up. You got the, not the dividends, but the, help me out with the term.
No, the dividends are the right answer. Yeah, your dividends are buying paid up additions. So essentially, the easiest thing to say here is your cash value every year is increasing. Therefore, your death benefit has to increase because more cash value kicks off a higher dividend. So if we're getting a dividend, which is a percentage, okay, so it's like a return. If you're getting a dividend and guaranteed interest on 377, that's a bigger dividend and bigger interest than you would earn on earning a dividend and guaranteed interest on the prior year, which is 340 right here. So therefore, every year, there's more money compounding, which means every year your death benefit is going to go up because of the cash value increasing. So when you hear people say that you don't take any of the cash value, they're correct. It's not going to be the death benefit plus the cash value. But see, it's misleading when these gurus say that, because as you can see, plain as day, as your cash value increases, your death benefit increases. Although the two are not tied, they are related. So I just wanted to point that out because it's very easy to see here. So I'm going to stop sharing this real quick because I want to move on and show you how this works, folks. But some folks just love diving into the numbers. And I know, Shane, that was a really important thing for you when we did it. But let's show how you've used this in the Turo business.
Yep.
Coming over here, folks, we already know the numbers. You saw it. Put 109 in the first year with the dump in, $2,000 a month. Now, I did the math because we had two policies. If we average out the loan interest rate for him to take a loan from his policy, it averages out at 5.37%. Now, Shane, can you go to the bank right now, get a loan for that new Honda Pilot at a rate less than 5.37%?
Not right now, no.
Anyone watching this video, does anyone know today, 2025, where you can go and get a car loan less than 5.37%? There's always one in the audience. It's like, yep, I got a buddy at this credit union and they got an intro rate that's for 6 months at 2.99%. But basically, Shane, you're confirming, coming from the auto industry, you couldn't get a car loan at 5.37% without some type of promotion or like intro rate, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, without a promotion, intro rate, or new, typically, you're not going to find that.
So you're like the first person I can ask that, because you spent all those years, how many years did you spend in the auto industry? 20?
Over 25.
Over 25 years. So yeah. I'm asking an expert here, folks. So he's confirming you can't. So it would make sense for you to take a loan from your bank versus somebody else's bank because your bank's cheaper, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what we're going to do here, folks, is what Shane did is, well, here, let me come over here. Shane had loans on these Honda Pilots and had loans on all three, which is really good because a lot of times when people get into the infinite banking concept, they're going to basically already have a car that already has a car loan on it. I'm not going to say there aren't the rare ones that are going to get into the infinite banking and then go and buy a brand new car or a used car with the money. Most people have an existing car loan, which you did too. So the first car, the Honda Pilot, I believe it was 2011 Honda Pilot. Yep, got that right. You had on January 16, 2025, you had a balance of $10,000. Your monthly payment was $253.63. You had a 48-month term, and the bank was charging you 10% interest. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the way that I set it up for my new loan. Correct.
Right, but this was based off of the financing you had through a bank,
yes,
right?
Yes,
yeah.
Payment one.
That's all
yes.
I was trying to say. I
Yep.
don't know why I put the dates on here. Ignore the dates because he paid this off before that. But that's when this note was done. So what Shane did, these policies are in his personal name. He took a loan. So let's do the first one. First one, he would have taken a loan. I'm just going to use these numbers. They're not exact. They're not exactly how Shane did it. You got to kind of just keep it simple. So if you owe 10 grand, we're just going to take a loan for 10 grand. So he had the the first year, $100,000, we'll just call it, in cash value. He takes 10,000 of it, does a note, like a promissory note to his company, Quality Home Ltd. Now, Quality Home Ltd. is the owner of the Honda Pilot. So that loan, and then all he did is he did a note, and I always tell people to do this, $10,000 loan. He's going to make payments of $253.63 for a period of 48 months at 10% interest. Okay, I'm just keeping this simple. And then he squiggles his name on the bottom and signs. Now, I know some people, that sounds silly, but this is very important because you need to treat your money the same way you treat the bank's money. And there is no bank any of you have ever used where you have not had to sign a promissory note and like put a lien on the car. So Shane's just doing the same thing. His company is basically borrowing money from him personally, and he's putting it in writing. Now, Shane, I think, and actually I really want to do this, I think you gave me a copy of these notes. So if I can, do you mind if I share that?
Yeah, please.
This is what it looks like. So I don't really need to read this. Shane, do you want to just explain this loan agreement that you did from you to your company? So some people watching this, they're thinking that this is kind of silly and strange because they're like, it's your money. Why did you do this? But walk them through how you did this.
Yeah, well, I kept it simple. I got the date on there, of course, from myself to my business. So I am the lender, Shane Hollingsworth, and lending it to my business for Quality Home Limited. The rest of the wording type stuff, I just threw into Chat GPT and told them what I wanted, and so printed this out. But the basics were $10,000, 10% per year, and 48-month term. And now I have payments of $253.63 going back to me, and it starts in 30 days.
There it is. Look, you even put a late payment in. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I kept it as simple as possible, and again, ChatGPT is a nice tool, and I was like, you know what? Let's go. I'm signing it to myself. I'll pay myself a late fee if I forget.
But what's really cool about that is, you are treating your money the exact same way you would treat the bank's money. And you are doing a note, which is solidifying that you are not your company and your company is not you. So I love that. So let's keep going now, folks. So he did that first loan, paid that off, did the note, but he also did a second loan, 12/12/2023, which was for $14,000. This is the other Honda Pilot. His payment was $385.36, a 42-month term at 8%. So these are the 2 car loans. So just imagine you take 2 loans from your policies, okay, 14 and 10 at different times, because they're 2 different cars that he did at different times. Now, those car loans are paid off. He no longer owes the bank money on those car loans. But that doesn't mean he's not going to pay someone. And he decided paying himself was way better than paying XYZ bank or any bank that you can see driving down the street. So over here, what I did is I kind of just summed this up in the middle. So we borrowed the money from our policy at 5.37%, which was less than what he was paying their bank. But then he's going to pay his bank back the exact same amount he was paying to the traditional bank. So he's making a spread. And I did that right here. But so his Turo recapture, remember, who's paying those payments, folks? Is it Shane or is it the people renting his car when you really think about it? Now, Shane is making the payments, but the money's coming from other people renting these Honda Pilots from Turo. So I want to be clear about that. Shane, somebody else is making your payments to your bank. So you're really, really cheating the system here, but you're not cheating anything. You're literally doing the exact same thing a bank would do, but you're doing it better because you are the bank. So what that works out to be, folks, if you did the math, the payments on both of these vehicles are $638.99. An average interest rate, if we sum up and average out the interest rate on those 2 loans, is 9%, which means if we took what the insurance company charges them, 5.37, and then what the loans are, you're making a spread of 3.625%. That's more money than most people make on any bank account they're ever going to have. But on top of that, on top of the spread, your policy and all the money, let me just come back over here real quick, folks, because I think this is a good point for you all to look at this again. So what I figured we'd do, Shane, is, we just talked a little bit about the spread. Let's go in and let me show them the policy, because you're not just making this spread, you're making the spread plus you're still earning interest and dividends on all of the money in the policy. So what does that look like? So let me show that illustration again now as we go through. I just want people to really understand the mathematics here, and it's very easy to see. So here's how I would normally show that, folks. Now, I know these numbers are small, but I'm going to leave it here. Remember I said in this year right here, the third year, Shane put in $24,000, but he was able to take $26,632 out that year. So that would be his yearly gain. So if you really look at it, minus the cost of insurance, minus the policy service fees, minus the commissions on this policy, he made the difference between the 24 and the 26, which I'm going to put it right down here. That would be $1,006. Am I doing this right? So $1,632. I think I got that right. Okay. So 1,000, that's how much he made. Now, if we were to divide that into the $24,000 that he'd put into premium deposits, what would we get? Well, I already did the math. That would get a return of 6.8%. So folks, all of you can do that, and let's just do it together. If any of you want to see how to do this, it's quite simple. You take the 1632, okay, right there, and you just divide it into the amount of premium deposits that went in, which was 24,000, because you can't count the 24,000. So that gives us 6.8%. So that's how you figure cash on cash return. We can do that every single year. So why don't we just do one more year here? We'll do this here, one more year. Let me clear the screen there. So if we come down here and we go from this one, so you would take the 27,915, which is the cash value. Okay, we would subtract the 24,000, and that gets us the net. So 27, there we go. If I can get my calculator to work, minus 24,000 gives us 3,000. It's a big increase, $3,915. Then remember I said you're going to divide that for cash on cash by the 24,000 that he put in. So let's do that, divided by, and there's your 3,915 divided by the 24,000 gives you 16.3. Okay, so 16.3%. So that is what you call cash on cash return. I've got other videos that show how to do that. So you can watch my YouTube. We've got one that shows you all the different returns, but you're making this plus the spread. So it's not this or that, folks. It's this plus that. That is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people miss when they're looking at these policies is they want to compare the policy and the returns of the policy to a stock market return, a Bitcoin return, some other investment, but it's not. It's this plus this. For example, in your case, you were giving away 10% on that loan, 8% on that, an average of 9%. So we took the 9, netted out what you got to pay the insurance company, which gave you the spread. And that's not even correct because we're actually paying this loan down. So every year his spread goes up. But on top of that, your policy is earning uninterrupted compounding interest because that loan, this 24,000 you took out, that money didn't come out of your account. That money was lent to you by the insurance company, and all the insurance company did is collateralized it with your cash value. So folks, when you're looking at this, that's the biggest reason to use the infinite banking concept is you get to make money twice on the same dollar. And Shane, this is your story. So I hate to steal the thunder here, but it's so awesome to see the mathematics and just to see all this money coming back. Plus, I'm going to go one more, and then I want to move on to the future goals and your daughters. This $638.79 that we're recapturing, which is the same amount of money you used to pay to the banks. You used to give that money to the traditional bank. You changed it over, did the notes from your bank. So now your company's paying your policy back. So this $638.79 every month, when this money goes back into your policy as a loan repayment, Shane, how much money will you have after that check clears?
All of it.
Yeah.
638.
638.79. Every month you're making payments on those two cars, or you're not even you're making the payment, but the Turo people that are renting your cars are literally paying you for that car. So they're actually paying your payment, but you're losing none of that. Most people that do Turo, they don't use this system, so they've got car loans. So out of their net from that they make, that 37 grand that they make in Turo, they have to pay the bank 253, 385, and the next car 431. That money's always gone for everybody else. For you, you're recapturing the money you were giving away. And up next on the deck is this 2020 Honda, which you owe $21,513, a monthly payment of $431, and that's a 72-month loan at 7.4. So the best part about that is I know you're months away from being able to pay that off with the banking system. Now we're going to add down here. So we're literally going to be adding an additional $431 a month that's going to be recaptured. So that's going to help your returns even more. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, this is when you start just grinning. You know what I mean? It's like you're recapturing everything. So if I got another 431 coming in, and that really turns me into, what's the math on that? 1,079 a month, 69 a month. Shoot, how long before I can buy another car using my policy? I mean, this is just the way I look at it. It's infinite banking concept. And with Turo, it turns into an infinite return because, in reality, I'm just putting a little bit of time in. I'm getting my money back from my purchases. It's going back into my bank, and then I can use it all over again while it's compounding. So, I get goosebumps, man, just thinking about it because, this is, they say printing money with the government's bad, which, yeah, but this is printing money for myself. And it is happening over and over again. And as you alluded to on the diagram, it gets bigger and bigger every year. And I'm doing nothing different other than kind of what you've talked about over time, is just changing one thing. And that's where the money goes first. And, I feel blessed. I feel like this is fantastic, godsend type of thing, put me somehow to click on your channel to start learning more about the process, to even introduce it, and then have this as a platform to do it on. I mean, this is just one thing that I do, and it's infinite. It's fantastic. So
I think
buy that for any time. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
go.
You hit it on the head when you said you're not doing anything different except for changing one thing, because you're really not. You were already making car payments to a bank, and that's all where this came from. So all you did is you just changed who you were making the check payable to. Instead of paying it to whatever bank that was that financed those Honda Pilots, you're paying it back to the bank of Shane. That's it. The check goes back to your bank, and your bank never stopped earning interest and dividends on the full amount, which is hence the making money twice on the same dollar. But I think the best part is, and this is, we're going to kind of move into the final stage of this, is the legacy aspect. Now, when I talk about the legacy, I'm not talking about the $1.7 million death benefit, or, after the 7th year when the term rider drops, $700,000 or $800,000 death benefit. That's a legacy that will pass on to your family when you're gone, and that will be tax-free. I'm talking about the legacy that you're doing for your daughters. I want us to take just a moment and want to talk a little bit about how you've involved your 3 daughters into the Turo business, how you're teaching them what you're doing and how much money you can make doing this, but also teaching them about money all the while. Because, well, here, I'll let you dive in. You got a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old. Tell me how they're part of the business.
All right. So keeping it, simple. My 18-year-old, I'll have her drive it through the car wash typically, because her college class is over near where a car wash is. So it's pretty simple. I'll have my 16-year-old who just got her license follow me to the airport if I have an airport drop off. And, that's more her, like what she likes to do. So I try to put the people in the right seats of the bus, so to speak. My youngest is totally cool cleaning. She doesn't care one way or another, whatever I'm doing, do I make some money to do stuff I like to do? And so, they all help clean. They all help. 2 of them can deliver now or help me pick up. And then my youngest she's just awesome because she'll just do whatever. She'll basically just go to work. She's like one of those that'll go mow the yard if you ask her to. So it's just awesome. So yeah, they get paid. All 3 of them get paid through the business. They get to buy their own stuff now, so you get some pride in that. If there's a project coming up, they'll just use the money that they've earned. If my oldest and my youngest started crocheting and putting together little fluffy animal type things with yarn and stuff, and went to a school fair and sold some of the product, made over a couple $100, and they were, tickled pink, but they used their money to buy the yarn to then reinvest it into something else. So, it's fantastic. They got money in their bank, and if they use all the money, like my middle daughter, she's a consumer, not much of an investor just yet. So she likes to consume, go get food, buy stuff for her friends, and then when the money's gone, it's like, I need to work a little harder. So I'm still working on her on use your first money to get you your second money to then be able to do those types of things. So that's what I'm trying to teach them. You know how it is. It takes time, but I'm trying to give them the best example I can right now.
I love that. It's the ultimate legacy, and I love that you're bringing them into the business, showing them how it all works, allowing them to earn their own money to go consume or do whatever they want. But the last part of this that I want to hit, and I just kind of jotted them down really quick, is what's next for Shane? What's next for the Hollingsworth family? Like, that's such an important aspect. And I know we mentioned it on the IBC wheel. We mentioned the 2020. So when do you think you'll be able to pay off the 2020 Honda Pilot loan using the infinite banking?
That should be within a month, because I have money through Private Money Club that I'm going to get a a windfall. So I'm going to use that, like a portion of those winnings, to take care of that.
Okay.
Kind of in the same clump, depending on if it, like, which investment comes back sooner. I'll be also in a position to get my fourth car. So
Yep,
that
so
should
that's
be
right
within
here.
a month. Yep.
And you were gonna buy this car, the fourth car, with the policies as well, right? And with your daughter?
Yep. Yeah, that one I'm planning on having my oldest put some money down
Nice.
on the loan and have her become a business partner on that one. So she'll
I
be
gotta
more
ask,
invested.
is it gonna be a Honda Pilot?
But you bet.
Okay.
Yeah, it just fits. It just works.
Sure does. And I know the final thing that you had talked about, which was something I'd never heard of, but this is the first year that would really resonate, because up here in Buffalo, we have not had our normal mid-season melt. You know, it's a little warm out today, but we got so much snow, it's not going to melt at all. We've literally had the best winter season for snowmobiling. You know, I was driving down to the resort the other day and there was snowmobiles everywhere. I heard stories on the hill of people that were like taking their snowmobiles to bars that they haven't been able to get their snowmobile to in decades, but this is it. So I tell that story because in the future for you is like kind of an Uber-ish service, but for snowmobiles. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, keeping it simple there. My brother goes to a bunch of mastermind type things in town. And one of the guys there is like, hey, I got this ATV that I rent out. That's, you know, I was sitting in my garage and these guys called me and said, hey, you want to join up? I'll give you some money. And when it's out, and I was like, well, I don't have any ATVs. And then we connected with them. It was like, we can buy some snowmobiles and put them on this platform. So right now we actually have a handful of them right now. And I'm starting to transition those into the same concept. Because again, I have a big windfall that I know is coming, but got a few snowmobiles. They rent anywhere from 400 to 300 a day. It's a 50% share. So, you know, however many days it's out, you get half the money and then you get paid. So, you know, there's different seasons that will be, you know, there. So I might end up with some jet skis in the summer. I mean, who knows? But right now, that is that's the next piece. So as long as everything goes as planned, you know, Craig Yeti is your spreadsheet guy. I got a spreadsheet that I put all the numbers into, and again, I don't go totally overboard, but I fixate on some of the profits. And if it looks like it works and I got some testimonials from other people, then I'm in.
I love it. So just to kind of sum this up, you're going to pay off that 2020 within the next month. And then depending on how that private money loan comes back or which one comes back, buy the fourth car with your daughter, have her put some skin in the game so she's got that sense of pride and ownership. And then the snowmobile thing, but they're all going to follow this same process. So we'll just call this BYOB. You know, the premium deposits are going in, which is the savings. That goes into the policies. Then he takes the money from the policies, comes over here. I'll draw another Honda Pilot. Sorry, my art's not on point today, but we'll just call this a Honda Pilot. Okay, that'll be a new one of those. And then let's see how I can do with a snowmobile here. I'll try to get a snowmobile. There we go.
Nice.
Okay, get a snowmobile. That's one of those high performance race ones with the giant suspension. That's at least what's going on in my head. And then get the snowmobile, rent those out. So rent those, take the money, roll it right back into the policy. Round and round we go. The spread just keeps going up and you make money twice on every dollar you have.
Absolutely.
With that being said, Shane, like what are some ways people can learn more about your Turo business? And we're going to put it in the chat. I know you got a website. What is that?
Yeah, I got a website. It's navigateyourventures.com. And I have a portion on there for, you know, some of the benefits of having a Turo business. I got the current 3 vehicles that are on there as well. So you can kind of see that, you know, they're not like all-star cars. They're just simple, you know, and people appreciate that because it's probably what they have in their driveway. So they're used to them. There's a little bit of information there, like with you on it. So if you see a Chris Naugle video or two about private money club or lending, It's because it's worked for me. Everything on my site is because it's worked for me. Taxes. There's like just a little blurb in there about taxes right now, but something that I've kind of learned from you too is, if you surround yourself with the right people, you'll figure out what you need to figure out, and the rest is just implementing and doing. So, there's some tax strategies that everyone can apply for. And, I'm using some of the terms as, it's not tax advice and not, all the legal stuff, but if you learn how to play the game, you can get ahead really quick. You can do stuff that you're already doing and turn it into a benefit instead of hurting you. Turning liabilities into assets was my main goal when I kind of started to the Turo too. Is like, how do I not have to worry about this car that I have to pay for and actually have it earn my payment? And so that immediately turns it into an asset. No different than a rental house, except they're a lot less expensive. But yeah, I mean, I feel the love from you guys anytime I'm around. Ask me anything on Wednesday is just amazing, because you can ask any question that you might feel is silly or elementary, and you guys are still take the time and have the patience to answer it again. So that's big. And I'm starting to find all the different crumbs that you have out there, like different Zoom calls and things like that I can attend and learn, because I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and you never want to be, because if you are, you need to get out. It's so I'm learning. I'm going to college, Chris, and I'm taking Chris Naugle Private Money Club tutorials all the time, and getting on your money school TV and all of it. So stuff I don't know, I'm learning from you. Whether you realize it or not, your videos are amazing, and keep me entertained, keep me learning, so all the credit goes to you. I will also give credit to God that, he put me in this position to be able to at least seek and find like-minded people. So this is, if you pray at all, just throw a prayer out there, help me find someone that I can learn from that has been there already. And, maybe you'll keep joining the campfire too. So yeah, I mean, success leaves clues, and that's all I'm doing is I'm learning from you guys. I am implementing as many things as I can. Not scared to fail, even though it hasn't really been that way. You know what I mean? So I'm not scared to not do well, but it just seems like these things do well. So I continue doing it, and I can't wait to get my third policy. Right now I'm using all the stuff that you're teaching me at, and something you said 2 weeks ago on a Ask Me Anything is, you want to make sure your policies are self-sufficient. I'm like, what does that even mean? And so my interpretation is, if I have $2,000 a month that I have a loan out, but I do the paperwork where I'm giving it to my lending company and they pay me $1,000 a month, it keeps coming around and around and around. And I build that one up so it's self-sufficient on paper, so it pays for itself. I'm ready for my third policy.
Absolutely.
Get my next windfall. Let's go.
Love it. And I love the reference to ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, and knock and the door shall be open for you. I love that. So folks, take that as some very powerful words. Shane really, really is knocking it out of the park, and all of you can follow exactly what he's done. Make sure it's something that you know, like, and understand. As he came from the auto industry, he knew, like, and understood autos, cars, and Turo was a natural fit. Find your superpower, find what it is you love to do, and go and do it. With that being said, Shane, thank you so much for your time today. And for all of you watching, thanks for joining us for another case study of solving the money problem. And folks, if you want to learn more, check this video out, how to get all the money back for every dream car you've ever wanted to buy. With that being said, thanks for joining us for solving the money problem. We'll see you on the next one.